Welcome, everybody. I'm very pleased to have joining me today Vicki Kozmak-LeFrense. She is the candidate for the UCP board, Northern Director, Northern Zone. Thanks for joining me, Vicki.
Thanks, Bonnie, for hosting this. I appreciate you inviting me on today.
And thanks to Max, who's really busy today, live streaming other events. He set everything up for us, and my goodness, I know I couldn't do it without him. All right. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, please? Like where you live and what your vocation is, that sort of thing.
Sure. So I'm living in Fort McMurray with my husband, and we've been here over 15 years at this point. But I'm born and raised in Alberta from a little town northeast of Edmonton. So I'm a born and bred Albertan girl, and my parents were from here as well, and my grandparents immigrated when they were in their teens. So family's been around in northeastern Alberta a long time. I'm currently employed. I have my own consulting company for the last 20 some years, and I work as a technical writer in the resource industry, in the mining industry. So
Oh,
I have my own hours that I can set, which has been very helpful when I'm working in this role, because it's one of the things that you have to consider. Do you have that time available? And so that's something that I'm able to do. But yeah, so happily living here up in the north where there's snow all over the ground already. We're well into winter at this point.
'tis the season. That
Yes.
that kind of does roll into one of the questions, which was, I guess this is mostly for someone who's not an incumbent. Are you aware of the time commitment that being a director requires? Well, yes, you are. You have, from my point of view, put in quite a few hours. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. I came into this role having served as a CA president for 3 years. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I hope that others are aware as well. I know there have been some estimates out there, people saying, oh, about 20 hours a month. And I think that's a bit of a disservice to folks that are running, because it can really be 20 hours a week. And it can be more. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done, not only in the immediate role, but also the committee work. And that's where, the dedication and the passion for our party and the conservative movement really pays off, is in those hours that we're able to dedicate to the members and to the party.
Right. Tell us a bit about what you have been doing. I kind of know a bit about what you do as a board member, but it's more than just attending CA AGMs for you.
Certainly it is. There's a lot that we do. So part of our function, our immediate function, is to work with the northern CAs. So that at a minimum, there's two of us. There's always two regional directors. So we often sort of tag team those constituency association AGMs. And my partner will take one group, I'll take another group, whoever seems to be closer or has that time off, and we'll figure it out, and we'll make it work for the CAs and for ourselves as well. But besides that, there's a lot of outreach and a lot of communication with the CAs. It's not always the communication that everyone can see. It's not the emails or the online messages, but it's the behind the scenes work when board members, presidents, and regular members have questions and they reach out to us. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to facilitate and help them and solve whatever issue they're having, or maybe put them in contact with the right person at the party. If they need, some advertising sent out or a flyer created, then we do that as well. And that's the immediate job. And then comes the committee work that I was talking about. So for me, I sit on several committees. On the Code of Conduct Committee, on the AGM Committee, which takes care of part of the planning for the AGM every year. I'm also, this past year, I was asked to step up to help out with PPGC. Now, PPGC is the Party Policy and Governance Committee. So every year at the AGM, everybody gets that book, and it has all of the governance resolutions and bylaws and the policy resolutions. And we are PPGC is the group that oversees the collection of all of those submissions from members, goes through them, vets them. We vet at least twice, meaning there are two sets of eyes on them. Usually it's 3 and sometimes 4 times. And then we get back in touch with the submitter. And there's so many hours that go into it. Bonnie, I know you're a little bit familiar with it because I know you've participated in that process as well. There was a chair of the policy subcommittee, wonderful fellow, wasn't able to take the role again this year, and I was asked to step up, so I did that, and it was a very demanding role, but it was very rewarding as well. We went through, I think, 847 policy submissions, and got it through the process and out for ranking to the members. Everyone remembers that email with many policies to go through, and out of that resulting is the 35 that make it into the plenary book at the AGM that everybody will be voting on. So there was that. And there's, besides that, a couple of other committees that I'm on, and then one that I'm pretty excited about for this upcoming year if I'm reelected as Northern Director, and that is the PCSC, which is the Party Candidate Selection Committee. And now these are all standing committees, so if folks want to learn more about them and what those rules are, they can go online to our party website. In the governance manual, you will see all of the standing committees. So PCSC, as chair of that committee, we haven't been too active up until now, obviously, because there are no nominations right now. But with that boundary redraw, as soon as that is complete in March, we're hoping, of next year, then we're going to be starting with the nominations, the nomination process in each of the CAs. So there's going to be a lot of work. We'd like to get those nominations completed as soon as possible so we can have our candidates in place, fundraising, doing the voter outreach, and getting ourselves really positioned well for that general election in 2027. So part of that initiative as well is going to be the LCNC. So that is the Local Candidate Nominating Committee. So each of the constituency associations is going to be tasked with forming an LCNC. And those rules, again, are in our governance manual. You can go on there and read them. And through that process, they're going to end up with their candidate, their nominee. It's overseen by the PCSC, and we're hoping that we can really get great engagement from the CAs so we can get some wonderful candidates put forward. I know one of the things that we heard, Bonnie, this summer and fall actually is our board did a board listening tour throughout the province, and we made one stop at least in every region of the 5 regions: Northern, Edmonton, Central, Calgary, and Southern. And then we also did one that was online. And one of the comments that we would hear from members, and that was for members to attend, we would hear the question, how do I get a nominee? How do we get a nominee? How can we always get the same person? How do we do this different? Well, you know what? That's part of this process, is putting names forth to that LCNC, selling memberships, getting support for whomever your candidate is, and getting that person elected so that they can be the nominee to then represent the UCP in your constituency in the next general election. So there's a little bit of work there. And I'm pretty excited about it too.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
You've covered even a couple of questions. So if you hear something that you've covered, it's just an opportunity to flesh it out a little bit. A lot of people don't understand how that nominating process works. So I appreciate you talking about it.
And you know what, Bonnie, that's exactly one of the reasons why I wanted to chair this committee, because I wanted to put forward a set of rules. Like, there are rules already established. The party has them. They're not bad. But I did sit on an LCNC once before, and I thought maybe a little bit more description, a little bit more help would have been needed. And that's one of the things I'm planning on doing, is setting up those rules. Of course, they need to be approved by the board. I don't just get to do that on my own. Putting them forward to the board for approval, and then getting those rules rolled out to each of the CAs, and doing a little bit of training along with it, so that the CAs are really prepared well and know exactly what they need to be doing. And I think that just makes each of the constituencies stronger. It makes each of the nominees stronger. It feels it'll help the members feel like they're more engaged, and actually they can be more engaged. So I think it's just going to help strengthen our party, strengthen the nominees, and give us a better chance at a bigger majority next election.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, and a lot of people just don't have it. I didn't 3 years ago, and now it's been trial by fire, kind of. It's there's a
Yeah,
it's fairly simple, but it's rather rewarding to know that in Alberta with the UCP, members can be involved, and we actually do make a difference.
hundred
And
percent,
and that's what I like
hundred
about it.
percent. There's an expression even in chess. Sometimes the pawn can take out a king. You don't
Yeah,
always have to be, um, someone, the richest person in town, or most friends. The members, as our party is aware, can organize, and with the strength in numbers, can make things happen.
for sure. So we know you've been on CA boards and the provincial board now for a couple years. Have you served on other kinds of boards before?
I have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
About 20 years ago in
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton, there's an arts group, the Free Will Players, and they're the acting group that puts on the Shakespeare in the Park in Howrah Park, in Edmonton every summer. And I served on that board. A little bit different from that when I was living in Edmonton before my husband and I moved up here. Um, I lived in a condo, and there are over 1,000 people living in that complex. It was a
I
series
couldn't
of
do it.
buildings. So, yeah, you know what? President of the condo board. And I just thought, you, you have to step up and serve sometimes. And if people get tired of seeing the same people doing, these roles all the time, it's so easy to just volunteer. Groups are always looking for volunteers, whether it be the condo board or whether it be our party. All you have to do is raise your hand and say, hey, how can I help? Step up. And we welcome that help. So, yeah, I seem to have been serving on boards for a little while now.
Good for you. So I guess we know why you want to run. The next question was, why do you want to run for this position? Well, we know that you want to renew your mandate and maybe work on some new things. You pretty much covered that. Did you want to flesh that out?
I do. I'm I love this province. I'm from here. I plan on staying here, and I feel passionately about it. Again, it's too easy to just sit back and yell at the TV when you see the news, something you're not happy with, or complain online. But I think just stepping up and offering to help out, and putting some time into it, it's very rewarding, and I think it's very important. I worry, as many Albertans do, about the overreach of the federal government, the mandate that the Liberals have had for the last 10 years, and now we have Carney, and we seem to be at the mercy of some of these other entities, other government, the federal government powers. And I think our province is worth fighting for, and I'm willing to do that.
Absolutely. I think you're in good company there. Do you work for an Alberta MLA or for the UCP?
No, I do not. I have no time.
All right.
It's
No, you
okay.
don't have time for that. Um, let's see. You covered that one. Um, do you have ideas regarding how to improve relations between urban and rural ridings?
I'm not so sure that our relations are bad. I think our priorities are a little bit different. We have different constituents, um, and I wonder sometimes, like, we participate, like the board for the last 2 years, for example. Um, or not many, some of us, some of us served as CA presidents before we got to the provincial board. I was one, Samantha Stanky, Rob Smith, who's the president, Patrick Malkin, and Irma Roberts from Calgary. She was also a CA president. And one of the things that we always talked about was improving communication, because we wanted a way that the presidents could talk more often, um, and just exchange the ideas, because we found that when we were together, we weren't actually all that different. We had a lot of the same issues as far as running our boards or what our constituents were concerned about. And the more that we were able to communicate like that, I thought or we all kind of felt that the stronger that we were. So this past year in particular, our board held the president's retreat. We thought, okay, well, at least the presidents, but we actually extended it to include the CFOs and the secretaries. And so president, CFO, secretaries. I think that was it. And we did one in Nisku. We held one of these in Nisku, so that would capture like Edmonton Central and North. And then we held one just outside Calgary, so that would be South Calgary and part of Central. And we got everyone together, and we were able to, sit in a room for a day and exchange ideas on different topics and hold different sessions. And some of those were some spicy conversations, and that's great, because how else are you going to know what the other people are thinking about or what their concerns are unless you're actually getting into that room and talking to them. And we found that we had a lot more in common than we had not in common. So that was something I think needs to continue. I know also every month our board hosts a president's call, and we've had really phenomenal turnout. Just about every president is attending. The premier is there as well. So the premier is available for questions for about an hour, hour and a half. She gives an update. And then we would also most recently host minister. And so we've had Minister LaGrange from the health portfolio. We've had Dan Williams. We've had Mike Ellis. We've had Demetrios Nicolaides. And these are all significant ministers in their portfolios. And we invite the presidents to ask questions then. And I think just the presidents being able to hear what the concerns are, whether it's rural or urban, they find out that we do have a lot more in common than we have different.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Um, and I think you've already referred to this one. With a round of legislative candidate nominations around the corner, what are your suggestions for ensuring that the selection process is a fair and transparent one? And what I have in mind is, for example, not disqualifying people over extremely trivial matters.
That's another reason why I wanted to chair that committee. Um, and I think fairness is very important. So first off, from the ground up, helping train the CAs so that they're well prepared for their LCNCs. But then secondly, having folks on that PCSC, which is going to be like that governing body. You can go online. I'm telling folks, go online to the governance manual and you can read the rules there, because that's like the governing body. And so I help select a lot of those people in collaboration with a few others from the board, and I think we are all um, pretty fair folks, and we're driven by serving members. And we also are representative of the entire province. There are committee members, there's 10 of us in total, 5 from the board and 5 from the membership. And we are from every region. So you don't have one concentration from one area that may be, thinking one way. We have a good diversity, and these are strong, long-time conservative UCP supporters. So you should
I'm
reelect
really
me
glad
because
to
I'll,
hear that.
yeah, you know
Yeah,
what? But it only works if I'm reelected so that I can remain as chair of that committee.
that's right.
Yes.
Um, this is kind of a hot button topic. Are you in favor of seeing an independence referendum put to Albertans?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If APP gets the numbers, 100%. Um, Personally, I think this separation or independence is going to happen one way or another. And there's several reasons I feel that way. But absolutely, the referendum, the people have to have their voice heard and give them a chance to vote. You know, if you want to know what members are thinking, just ask them. They'll tell you. And I'm in an interview right now talking to you, so I'm talking about myself. But I know what I think. When I'm talking to members, I don't need to hear myself talk. I want to hear what they have to say because that helps me form my decisions. And right now I know everyone wants that. Everyone wants that referendum. So if the folks from APP get the numbers and the signatures, then we need to go ahead with this. I I do think, however, just looking at numbers, as far as the membership of our party, there appear to be a big majority of our members that are in favor of independence. But we only have, I think the last membership count I heard was around 50 or 60,000. Right now, APP has over 250,000. So that tells us that there were a lot more people in favor of independence that are never going to join a party. They're not part of the UCP than there are in our party. And that's why I don't think this needs to be just a party decision. And it won't be, because if they get the numbers,
And it shouldn't be. You're right. And it shouldn't be at this point, I don't think.
yeah. Yeah.
And
So we'll see what the province has to say.
well, that's good. And the people who don't want it should have a chance to vote in that referendum as well and be heard.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that the
some
truth,
people
Bonnie?
don't. Yeah, yeah.
You just show up and vote and have your say counted.
Um, we can talk more. I guess this is pretty much the final one about election readiness. The provincial election, of course, is in 2027. Um, do you have an overall strategy of things to build on that you haven't mentioned already to make sure the UCP ensures a victory?
The first step is getting those good nominees in the role and early, so that we can help get them prepared and supported through funding, obviously, and through outreach. I think from the party side, and that's where regional directors will play a role, presidents will play a role, board members. We need to do the voter outreach. Now, one of the things that I'm concerned about and aware of is taking our conservative voters for granted, particularly in the rural areas. I'm also concerned that in the north, for example, with this boundary redraw, we're losing a seat. And there's a lot of people in the north feel sometimes that the north contributes maybe disproportionately or heavily to Alberta's wealth and to its income, and to then see the commission remove one of our representatives means we have less representation. and they're
Mhm.
giving it to the urban areas where, from a UCP standpoint, I mean, urban, we have more of a battle in the urban area, so that's like giving votes over to, or seats over to the NDP. I think we kind of have one more chance as the commission goes around to hear the final input from residents and stakeholders. And really want to work with some of the northern CAs to have a strategy, communication, and support them to be able to attend those hearings and have their voices heard. um, but getting back to the conservative voters, I don't want to take them for granted. And I also disagree. I know that there's this proposal or a thought out there that we can add water to the wine. And that means we can position ourselves a little closer to the center or away from the conservative side, because we know these UCP, these conservative voters are always going to vote UCP. Um, and we can maybe propose other policies that are a little less conservative that might appeal more to the urban voter, to the NDP or the undecided, the ones that aren't, the deep conservatives. And I don't actually agree with that. I don't think we should dilute ourselves or our values, um, just to try win over people that we will probably never win over anyways. I think we should stick to our conservative values. I think it's when we do best. And we shouldn't overlook rural, because rural is carrying this province right now.
Mhm.
We didn't win Edmonton. We suffered in Calgary. It would be nice to get some more seats, obviously, in Calgary and Edmonton, but I don't think we should do it at the expense of our conservative values that are holding us in the position that we have now.
I couldn't agree more. And uh, we hear about voter apathy, that conservatives don't show up to vote, and that could very well be a big part of it. Is because they're the politicians, conservative politicians, really aren't being brave enough to stand up and say, "Listen here, this is common sense, good stuff." Uh, they can back that. You don't have to
Mm,
dilute that, as you say. I
exactly.
think,
We don't
yeah,
need to be liberal light.
yeah,
Just be conservative. That's what people expect from us, and that's what we can do. We can win on it. Rural can still carry most of it. That's where we need to stay true. And I think if we can support urban, let's not forget about urban now. So urban,
that's right.
um, Edmonton, I'm not sure they had a ton of support last general election, just because it wasn't actually expected that we were going to win some of those. But you know what? We've been doing amazing things with fundraising. We do have some funds that we can put towards the urban centers and Edmonton. I know the Edmonton directors have been working very hard this last year. They've got their strategy in place, and they've done a lot of outreach. And I really have a lot of faith in them that they are going to pull out, a couple of wins there. Um, Calgary, I think there are some that are very close, and there again, we have the funds. We can do, if you have money, you can do more things with it, and I think we can
Mm.
support some of these candidates. Um, we will have good people in those roles, and we will have the voter outreach. Sometimes taking that loss teaches us some lessons, and I don't mean, in a bad way, but we take learning from it. So I think we can use that in Calgary coming up. I also think that maybe, in a strange way, the NDP is doing itself a little bit of a disservice with these recalls right now, because it's kind of woken some folks up early. And normally there's that cycle between the 4 years, is people are excited, there's an election, and then we kind of take it easy for a few years, and then we get excited because there's an election. But this time they went and
Mm.
excited us in the middle of that. and they've got us all active again. So it might actually backfire on them a bit.
Well, yeah, exactly, because I'm hoping that will motivate our conservative supporters to volunteer.
Mhm.
Um, get your membership for $10, people. Reach out to your CAs and ask how you can help, because clearly the NDP are in campaign mode. There's no secret that they have huge union funding, and a little birdie tells me they have Ottawa behind them too. So we really need to dig in, and we really have to stand strong, because if we don't, they're going to steamroll over us. I don't usually like to put my opinions into these interviews, but if I have a soapbox, I might as well get on it.
That's true, but I also in that same vein, there's a lot of conservative voters in these areas, and sometimes even in Edmonton, for example, that are just staying home because they feel like we're never going to win. So if we can give them some support, and they know that their vote will count, and it does matter, and get some more of the advertising out there, that I think that we can do better. And another thing that makes me wonder about some of these urban ridings, I've heard from people, even though they're conservative supporters, they don't want to put that sign on their lawn because they're afraid of what the neighbors will
Yep,
do, or they'll kick it, or
yep.
makes them a target. And I think with some of these funds that we have, I think we should just go big sometimes with the billboards, with those bigger signs in the areas that everyone sees, and it sort of relieves the individual from feeling that responsibility of the lawn sign, and yet that those are good candidates in that area, and just do your duty, go vote, and vote UCP.
Excellent. Are those your closing thoughts, or would you like to add to that?
Well, obviously, I want to thank you again for hosting this. It's a pleasure to chat with you, and I would like to ask humbly for those folks coming from the north to the AGM that they vote for me as Northern Director. I've got the experience in this role. I've got the proven dedication and skills necessary to take us through the next 2 years through this election cycle, and make sure that the UCP has an overwhelming win at that next election.
Well said. Well, thank you again for your time, Vicki, and I look forward to seeing you at the AGM, November 28th to 30th.
Thanks, Bonnie. My
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
We'll see you there.